Folks are trickling in here. Give everyone a little bit of time to make their way in. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be from wherever you are tuning in from. Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. Our webinar is How to Manage Energy Through Change. My name is Emily Sandilands. I am Zingerman's community builder. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm thrilled to be here alongside one of our fabulous trainers, Joni Hales. Hi, Joni.
Hi everyone.
We also have Mara Ferguson, who is our keynote liaison here at Zingerman, here behind the scenes. You can't see her, but she is here. She's monitoring chat and questions with me. We are coming to you live from all over Ann Arbor, Michigan, from our living rooms, from our sunrooms, but we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. So let's do a roll call here. If you can navigate the chat button at the bottom of your Zoom screen there, go ahead and drop in your location, and we'll do a roll call. Okay, lots of Michigan folks.
Yeah.
Canada. They're coming in. Denver.
California.
India.
Germany.
Wow, Germany. Oh, this is really exciting. Ontario, great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Keep those coming in. As those come in, I'll just kind of let you know how it's going to go today. We're going to be presenting here for a bit, and then we're going to leave some time at the end of today's presentation for Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them there. It should be right near the chat button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We're going to try to get to as many of those as we can today. If we don't get to your and not to worry, we can access those after the fact and get back to you with answers here in the days to come. Last item of business here is that we are recording today's webinar. We're going to be sending out the recording and the slides to you here in the days to come, as well as putting it on our website at zingtrain.com, where it will live for all of time and you can access it and share it and do all that good stuff. So I think that's it as far as housekeeping goes. Jody, I'm going to turn it over to you to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. So nice to see some familiar names come through in the chat and just people from all over the place. That's really exciting. Really glad to have you all here. So my name is Joni Hales. I'm a trainer at Zingerman. I've worked at Zingerman's for about 17 and a half years, 13 of those being in a management leadership role at Zingerman's Roadhouse before joining Zingerman. In my time in the organization, I have seen a lot of change. I think anyone who has worked somewhere for so long, they do see a lot of change. And I have seen change go really well, and I have seen change go not so well. I think one of the important things that we do at Zingerman's in regards to change and change management is that we put a focus not only on the change itself, but to talk about like the energy and the emotions around change. Because as humans, we don't always love change, or we love change when it's our own idea, maybe when it's not someone else's idea. So we like to talk about the change, but how we're going to feel around it. And I think that's an important piece about it. We've been talking about energy at Zingerman's for probably about 10 years now. And when we first introduced the idea of energy, there were definitely some skeptics. I think a lot of people hear energy and they think crystals and healing, and it sounds kind of woo-woo. And while all of those things are great and wonderful, they're just not typically things that get associated with business and in the workplace. And so when we talk about energy, that's not the energy we are talking about. It's so much more about how we choose to show up on a daily basis, how we're making sure that we're bringing our best self to the office or to the Zoom office. And then it's taking the idea of energy and thinking about how we choose to show up when we're going through change. And so that's the topic that we're diving into today. And just to make sure that we're all speaking common language, I want to share a little bit about energy first, so that way we are all on the same page, and then relate how energy fits into change itself. What I want to do from the very beginning is put you all to work for a moment, typing into chat. So to get us started thinking about energy, I want you to think about when you walk into a business, maybe it's a restaurant that you've never been to before, you've kind of heard mixed reviews about it, but you go in anyway. And the moment you walk in, you wish you could actually walk back out. Like it's almost like the air has changed from the second you walked through the door. There's that bad buzz. And so I want to ask and have you type into chat, what are those things that you are noticing, picking up on, hearing from people, and noticing in the environment when there's bad buzz? What kind of indicates bad buzz? Go ahead and type into chat. I'd love to hear some of the things you say. So attitudes, frowns, total silence, the looks on their faces. It doesn't have to just be a restaurant either. It can be any place. No eye contact, inattentive, unprofessional, yelling, low energy, staff seems disengaged, complaining. The body language, I think that is huge. There's panicky, hunched shoulders, staff are gossiping or things are talking. The weird attitudes, I really like that one because it's kind of hard to describe. It is, it's like you just notice it. It's weird. No one's talking with each other. Yeah, insane. I would walk out of the bad buzz. I oftentimes want to too. I hope nobody saw me so I can quietly sneak out. I don't want to make anyone feel bad. But I think a lot of times people stay in those environments and then they don't have a great experience. And some people certainly walk out. I think that's good. People looking towards the floor, rushing around. Yeah, and like busy, but like that chaotic busyness that doesn't actually feel good, preoccupied. Broken eye contact. I really like that of just like they look up for a moment and then look down. Yeah, all of these things. We all know it as soon as we feel it and we don't want to stay there. If it's our place of work and we walk in, it's not as easy just to walk back out. I mean, we're hopefully, or we want to be there, or we need to be there that day. So it's thinking about those bad buzz moments in the workplace, right? Those things happen as well. On the more positive side, I just want to ask, what indicates when there's good buzz happening? It's your favorite restaurant, or it's, your favorite day at work and it's going to be a great day. What are those things that tell you it's a great place to be? Friendly greetings, laughter, natural smiles, a lot of smiles. There's eye contact. You get hyped up. Yeah, people are paying attention. It's clean. Yeah, I like to think there's clean, there's positive lighting, there's good music, there's warmth, chatting, personal hellos. Everyone's wearing a mask. Yeah, happy eyes, smizing, as our friend Tyra Banks from America's Next Top Model would say. You got to smile with the eyes. You feel like you belong there. People are working. Yeah, laughing. They're attentive. I mean, all of this stuff. Open body language, right? You certainly all understand. I think the good buzz, that good buzz, that is the good energy, right? That is the positive energy that makes us want to be there. And the bad buzz certainly equates to bad energy. We think it's really helpful to do this exercise, just thinking about what exactly contributes to the energy of a place or of a group, to really determine what are the cue and clues that are telling you kind of what's up. Because defining what energy is exactly, other than, you'll know it when you feel it, right? It's easy just to say that, but if we don't get really clear about what it means when there is good buzz, I think it's easy for people to think they have really great energy and then they just don't. So we like to do this exercise to make sure everyone's on the same page. If you like something like this or want to introduce it, you could do this exact same exercise with your team and ask them, when the workplace has really great buzz, what does it feel like? When it has bad buzz, because let's be honest, even the best workplaces can have a little bit of bad buzz sometimes. What does it feel like then? It just gets us on the same page and we start to begin to speak the same language about service, about energy, about all of these things. So diving a little bit deeper into it. What is energy? I think energy is somewhat amorphous. Even this description from Ari, you can read it and it's like, I think it makes sense, but yet it's still one of those things. How do I really describe it? But I think this begins to lay the groundwork for what we're talking about. So our history with energy, it begins back in maybe 2006, 2007. We wrote into our long-term vision for the organization that in the future, as the Zingerman's community of businesses, we wanted to be having 360% more fun than we were currently having at work. And that sounds very inspiring. Like we all want to have more fun at work. But then if we had this kind of goal of 360%, we needed to start measuring it. So we set out on trying to figure out how would we measure how much fun we were having. If you have never tried to measure fun, let me just tell you, it is the least fun thing that you will ever do. It is almost impossible to measure fun. Like we tried measuring how much laughter there was and like a scale of how loud did people laugh, but then people would just laugh louder than they really needed to. How many jokes were being told? People would report out on their fun level. But the problem really was that everyone had a different definition of fun. For some people, that was if we were, out bowling and having drinks with coworkers, that was great. For others, that's the last thing they want to do. They don't want to socialize with coworkers on their day off. They want to be home reading a good book by themselves. So the idea of trying to have more fun, I mean, it was nice, but we really couldn't figure out the execution to make it happen that we could really measure it. So we kind of let it be for a little bit. And then a few months, or maybe it was even a year later, Ari heard a woman named Anise Kavanaugh speak at a conference, and she spoke all about energetic presence, and that how you or us as individuals, how we're choosing to show up, what we are putting out there for others to pick up on, and how everyone bringing their own energy to work every day kind of makes up the organization's energy, right? The fun level is really more of like how you feel, and that's energy. Energy really is that feeling you get when you walk in. It is the buzz. And after hearing Anise speak, Ari brought the idea of energy back to Zingerman's. And when we changed our focus from having fun to having positive energy. And one of the first things we did was to get really clear, not only about how to define it, but also how we would be able to teach it, how people could recognize it, and how we could start to make changes on a personal and on a group level. And then we also wanted to be very clear about why this was important to us. Again, as kind of said before, all of our personal energy adds up to the overall energy. It impacts the workday, our productivity, how well we're going to adapt to change based on the energy that we bring, and certainly more on that in just a moment. Our customers certainly pick up on it too. We just did the exercise. We all pick up on that, right? It can really make a difference between a place that I look forward to visiting or being a part of, and one that I really never want to go back to. So, and it makes a difference between being a great place to work and a place that people can't wait to leave at the end of the day. So it's an expectation at Zingerman's that leaders bring positive energy to work every day, and everyone is a leader. So I mean, that is all staff members, an expectation they bring positive energy, and we want to help create and maintain great energy at work. And before we get kind of further into the definitions, I think these are some really great examples of energy in action. So this first one, you probably all know this person who walks in. This was brought up. No eye contact, looking at the floor, hunched over, saggy, right? This sad sack has horrible energy. We don't want to spend too much time with this person. Then I love this guy. Like, this guy has fabulous energy. Like, you can see the smiles, you can see the enthusiasm. I mean, the pointing, all of it. Like, I want to be around him. He just makes me happy every time I see this person. That is high positive energy. This next one I think is a different one too, because you almost can't tell what this woman's energy is. Is she quietly kind of just thinking to herself, being a little more contemplative? Could she be seething with anger? I don't actually know. Maybe she's walking towards, a long lost friend and she's just about to smile. The point with this one is it's not always easy to read energy, as it was with the first two, but that's why we define it and why we teach it. A key part of our definition is to make it real and practical so that people can recognize what their own energy is and make changes to it. So we learned from Anise and adapted it to work for us that we all have 3 types of energy. The first type is physical, and this is how we are physically feeling. I mean, it's how your body feels. There are a lot of things that can impact your physical energy. It is getting enough sleep each night, eating well, eating the right foods, taking breaks when you're staring at a screen all day, standing up, stretching. I think the clothes we wear contributes to our physical energy, which Mara and I were talking about this earlier. I mean, if you're like me or maybe us, I haven't put on like real pants in maybe 11 months. I get more physical energy being able to wear like sweatpants or leggings. It's just more comfortable when I'm working from home. That contributes to my physical energy. I think exercise is another big one. So getting outside, moving your body, all of those things contribute to it. The next type of energy is mental or emotional. And the mental or emotional, this is when, it's how you're feeling in your head, how you feel in your heart. I liken it to when you feel like things are just kind of clicking. You feel grounded, you feel centered, like all kind of feels right in the world. I think what helps this for people is kind of very varied. what you do to kind of boost your mental, emotional bucket can be different from other people. For some people, it's cranking away with the music blasting or listening to a really great podcast. For someone else, it's having a quiet, meditative time, spending time with loved ones. I think right now for me, it's spending time away from my children can boost my mental energy because we're around each other 24/7 for the past 11 months, especially with remote learning. But when I travel, spending time with my kids is what boosts my mental energy. It can be different. I think of my parents, they aren't seeing as much of us during this time. So spending some masked time outside with the kids totally fills their mental buckets, right? It's different for different people. Other things we've heard over the past years too that help, things like prayer, reflection, meditation, attending service, going to therapy, being around animals contributes to your mental energy, having hobbies outside of work, gratitude lists, as someone is saying, absolutely. I think exercise touches on this one too. If anyone is a runner, I am not a runner, but I have heard there's this thing that runners experience called a runner's high. That is not my experience. I get runner's anger when I run, but many people, if you're a runner and you're not able to get outside because you were injured or it's raining or cold or whatever it is, your mental energy can suffer a little bit. Yoga is another one that I think touches on the physical and the emotional. Going outside for walks, again, fresh air, all of those things. Spending time with joyful and playful dogs. Yes, absolutely. Animals can be a huge energy booster. So these first two types, the physical and the emotional, we can manage these. Like I can manage my physical energy. I can manage my mental energy by doing gratitude lists or even having a to-do list and just checking things off. The third type is where it gets a little bit different. And this is the vibrational energy. And vibrational energy, this is what people are picking up from us as they walk into a room or even as they enter a virtual space. People can certainly pick up energy over Zoom or Google Meets or whatever the Teams group is that you're working on. You can pick it up over the screen. This is the person who, when they walk in, they change the air or they log on to that Zoom meeting and you're kind of like, oh, really? I'm working with them again, right? That's their vibrational energy. Or when you're in person, the one who walks in and you literally want to walk the other way, right? That's not examples of great positive energy. I think of the person though, who they come in and you just want to spend time with them. They're kind of like a ray of sunshine. You just gravitate towards them. That's really positive, kind of productive energy. And we want to make sure we're managing our physical and our emotional energy so we can be the best vibrational energy or have the best vibrational energy that we can. I think that vibrational energy, something that helped me is just thinking and trying to understand about how other people impact me. So again, when I see that person's name pop up or, they're walking towards me, am I really excited? Or do I kind of deflate like a balloon, right? Or are they the energy vampire to me where they kind of suck all the positive energy straight out of my life, right? I don't want to be that person for other people. And I certainly want to limit my time with those who do that for me. But I think that is a great way for me, at least, to understand really what are we talking about when we're talking about this vibrational energy. I think the work around this type of energy is really important. I think especially for leaders, it can be the most difficult, I think at times. It can be really hard to gauge your own vibrational energy. But if we're not managing it, if we're not working to have positive vibes, we can then be spreading that around to everybody or spreading that to everybody who's around us. We sometimes liken it to the old cartoon where you walk in with the storm cloud raining, and I have sun over my head right now, where the storm cloud's raining over your head and you come in and it just rains over everyone else, right? That is negative vibrational energy. And we don't want to do that to anybody. That's not fun to be a part of. So we want to do the work to manage it and have positive energy. We know it's not enough just to say, go out there and have great energy because people can manage that in different ways. So we like to get really clear about what it looks like. What you see here is the energy recipe, and we'll talk through it. I think it really brings all of these concepts together when we talk about energy. So the first step of the recipe is to read it. And I'm going to ask you to practice or participate in a poll in just a moment where I want you to read your own energy. So this means becoming mindful of where our energy is. And I think this is something that many of us don't always do. We're not taught how to do it. We don't practice how to do it. We're just not aware. We don't take the time to pause and actually think, where's my energy right now? So we read it on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is negative, disruptive, like not only am I not going to do any good work today, I'm going to allow my energy to stop everyone else. Like that's the storm cloud, right? And a 10 is high energy. It's good buzz. People want to be around you. And I think a 10 can look very different for different people. Sometimes a 10 is loud and includes a lot of hand gestures. And for someone else, a 10 is more quiet, but still radiating positivity. We have a coworker who her scale is 0 to Zen, because her 10 is just much more of a kind of meditative, more contemplative state. It's very different for different people. And so right now, Mara's going to put up the poll up. Would love for you just to take a minute and read your own energy. Where do you feel your energy is right now on a scale of 0 to 10? This is anonymous, so you can be totally honest if you're in here with like a coworker or something, but just take a moment and read your energy, because it's just about being aware of it. I think that is truly the first step, just to be aware. So a lot of good answers coming in. Yeah, I think this is very consistent with where we often find. I'm not sure if you can actually see all of the answers yet. There you go. I think now you can. The results that are on there. So, I mean, 7 is certainly the highest. I think that definitely can be. Maybe your second or third cup of coffee has, worn off. You are getting hungry for lunch, right? All of these things can contribute to your energy. So thank you all for sharing those. Appreciate it. The second step, once we read it and practice reading it, is to vision it. So it's to pick a point in time in the future and decide where you want your energy to be at that point. And I'm going to ask you to choose a number, not in a poll, but just kind of for yourself. It's to pick that point in time and then choose, like, this is where I want my energy to be. And before you choose your own number and keep it to yourself, we do have one small caveat. We don't vision our energy down. If you are currently at a 7, we don't want you to say, oh, in 3 hours, I'm going to be at a 2. I hope nothing that bad is going to happen in the next few hours. But if we vision our energy down, that's not very productive. So maybe you're at a 7 and by the end of the day, you want to stay at a 7, or maybe you want to be at an 8. Right? It's up to you. So I want to say, let's say 2 hours from now, which would be roughly like 1:20 if you are in our Eastern time zone, but 2 hours from wherever you are, and just make a conscious choice and say, this is where I want my energy to be. I'm at a 5, and in 2 hours, I want to be at an 8. Right? So it's totally up to you, a personal choice. You can choose it as long, again, our recommendation, choose to maintain or to improve your energy. Once you have done those first 2 steps, the third is to manage it. So what are you going to do to get to where you visioned your energy to be? I think because once we're mindful of our energy, it is fully within our ability to effectively manage it. We just need to be aware of it to be able to do that. And again, how we are going to manage it is going to be different for each of us. It's all the things we talked about before. It's listening to good music, getting fresh air, eating lunch, eating breakfast, maybe more coffee and caffeine, getting something off your to-do list. When I can cross like a big bucket off my list, that is a huge energy booster for me. Again, going outside, pray, meditate, calling a loved one, checking in with family or parents, any of that kind of stuff, getting some sunshine on your face, right? Those are things that can boost and manage your energy. I do want to be very clear. Those are things that take a little bit of time. Maybe you don't have 30 minutes right now to go for a walk or to go out and get lunch or get breakfast. There are things that you can do quickly in the moment. Kelly is saying deep breaths, write thank you notes, changing music, keep doing what you're doing, but just have some good music playing. Ari has a tool he calls 3 and out. If his energy is low, he finds 3 people, whether in person, in text, in email, and he thanks them. By the time he's thanked all 3 of them, their energy's gone up and his certainly has gone up. He also has another tool called SBA, and it stands for Stop, Breathe, Appreciate. So before he walks into any of the Zingerman's buildings, he consciously takes a moment to stop, take a deep breath, as somebody said, and appreciate. Think of something that he's appreciative of. If he can do that, he's raising his energy, he's managing it so he can go in and he can be in a more positive state for other people, right? So what are those things that you will do to manage it? The fourth step is to repeat it. I mean, I think effective energy management, it just means that we are running repeatedly through steps 1 through 3 all the time, because we can be in a great energetic space and then we have a difficult coworker interaction. The kids at home with us are fighting with each other or fighting us. We start to get a headache. We didn't get enough sleep. All of those things happen. So we just want to keep repeating this recipe. We read it, we vision it, we manage it, and then we keep doing it over. And I just want to say, kind of before we transition to how we take this energy and talk about it with change, is that we are not perfect. Having this recipe, having this definition, it doesn't mean that we're at 9s or 10s all the time, but having it, it really does help us move closer to our goal of bringing positive energy. Because again, it's not enough just to say like, be in a good mood at work and start having more fun. Right? People interpret that in different ways. So this is how we get on the same page. I think it has helped give us common language, rather than saying to somebody like, wow, you seem like you're in a bad mood today, or like, what's wrong? You're in a bad mood. Right? Nobody responds well to that. If somebody says that to me, I want to be like, no, I'm not. You're in a bad mood. Or I wasn't, now I am. Right? Or I thought I was faking it. How can they see that? Right? We talk about energy, right? And as just the reminder, the energy that we bring, it impacts everyone around us, certainly our coworkers, our customers, our family members. I know if I have certainly when I was working in the office, if I had a rough day at work or a rough commute home, I'm bringing all of that energy into the building with me when I get to see my kids for the first time in 8 or 9 hours. And I don't want to have low energy when I see them. I love them and I want them to boost my energy. So I would often take my commute to manage it so I could come in and be the best person that I could be. And it certainly needs to be authentic. We do kind of believe you can do some retail theater and kind of fake it till you make it. But if it's insincere, like people know when the smile isn't actually meeting your eyes, and it actually does not go over very well, right? It needs to be genuine and authentic. And it takes practice to make that happen. But we do know with our energy too, if my energy is at a 5 or a 6, and I walk into a group of my coworkers, they're probably instantly going to be down somewhere where I was, if they were maybe at a 7 or an 8. Or if I'm a 5 or a 6, it's really hard to deliver a 9 or 10 experience. I like to think I have positive energy. I hope I'm, giving off good vibrational. Would you want to sit and listen to somebody talk for an hour? You need to read your energy, and then you vision it, and then you manage it, right? That's not exciting. No one wants to hear that. Right? I want to give great service, so I want to have high energy while I do it. So thank you for the comments on energy, and we'll certainly answer some of the questions when we get into the Q&A. I appreciate it. Switching gears just a little bit, slightly, and kind of bringing these two topics together. I want to begin to bring the idea of energy into the idea of change. So this is a tool that we recently kind of rediscovered, and it's added, I think, another kind of very useful dimension to our personal understanding of energy and of change. So this is the William Bridges transition model. It was published in 1991 in a book called Managing Transitions, but I think it is still so relevant, so timely. I think it applies to almost anything. And it really focuses on the emotions of people who are experiencing change and what goes through our minds. And I think that correlates to energy. I think a lot of the emotions we put out is a lot of the energy that we are feeling. We're all people with emotions. So these stages, they apply to us as we go through change, really any type of change. And for me, knowing that these stages exist, it's really helped clear up a lot of frustrations I've had around change, kind of both my own and frustrations I've had with other people when they're just not like getting on board or when they tend to have negative energy around it. It's just helped me manage my expectations and my own energy. So we're going to walk through kind of all 3 of them. The first stage, when change is first introduced, we all tend to begin at stage 1. We might start this at different times, but we typically are in this first stage. And this is the ending, losing, or letting go. When change is happening, it often means we're letting go of something, or there's a loss of the way things currently were, and it's going to be different going forward. Common emotions are, fear, denial, anger, sadness. It can be disorientation. You can have frustration and uncertainty. Again, there's that kind of sense of loss. There's usually a lot of low energy in this stage because we're often fearful of what the future is. And when I think of this stage and I think of energy, I know very few people who are angry and afraid, but are putting off great positive vibrational energy. I just don't think it happens. I think energy is going to be low in this stage. I like to think about, and to kind of put it into a situation maybe many of us have had happen before. Think about like when you've had a key coworker announce that they're going to be leaving the company. Maybe they're moving or they found another job or whatever it is, but they've announced that they're going to be leaving. And just remember your emotional reaction to it. And this is someone you like, they're a key part of the organization. And I can clearly remember being in a lot of denial multiple times when I've had key coworkers announce they're leaving. I had a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety over the future. And it wasn't that I didn't want them to take a new job they're really excited about, or move on to a new chapter in their life, but I still felt a sense of loss. And I kind of tried to stay in denial as long as I could, because if I can just pretend it's not happening, we can just maybe it won't happen. It doesn't actually work that way. So in terms of energy, when you notice the energy is low around a change that you're introducing, if you're the change leader, this is to be expected. It's because they're in this stage. This can be very scary. It can be uneasy. It's an uncomfortable stage to be in, but it is normal and it is expected. And I think as leaders, I think our job is to honor that this stage exists, recognize why the energy might be low around the change, and also to help people move forward from it. If we stay in this stage too long, if we let others stay in the stage too long, it's really hard to make an impactful and effective change. So when we can move out of stage 1, we move to stage 2. It's the neutral zone. This is the bridge between the old and the new. There might still be feelings of skepticism, some anxiety, resentment. You could notice some low morale and low productivity around change or whatever it might be. We're not totally sure how to feel about this change yet. So I think that's normal. But then you also begin to see a little bit of creativity, innovation, renewal. I think the first few rays of acceptance may start to kind of shine through, maybe briefly, but they're there. The energy in here maybe is like around a 5 or a 6 in this stage. There can be a lot of seesawing of emotions. Like someday we have really high energy around it, and some days we have low energy because we don't think it'll actually work. It goes back and forth. People are excited and they go back to denial. And that's normal to be in this neutral zone. You're back and forth. And thinking of the coworker who announced they were going to leave, if you can remember when you started to think that maybe it was actually going to be okay once they were going to be gone. I'm still nervous about the future, but this is a good opportunity to rewrite their job descriptions, or we could see how having a fresh set of eyes in the position might not actually be the worst thing. We can get some outside expertise and experience brought into the organization or to the department. Or it's when our excitement for them finally begins to outweigh the fear that we have for ourselves about how is this going to impact me. It's in stage 2 that, again, the energy begins to go up. You can see some more positive energy, and you start to feel and see a bit of more forward momentum in this stage. Moving from stage 2, we get to stage 3. This is the new beginning. It's where you reach acceptance. You can feel the energy shift. There is an openness to learning. There's renewed commitment. The energy is high. I think you can feel positive vibes from the team about the change. So this would be after you've hired a replacement. The team is eager to welcome them and teach them. You can see the energy of the group has gone up. Your own personal energy has gone up. This is the stage where change can truly happen and momentum is moving positively forward. And I really believe that you can take almost any change, professional or personal, and really run them through these stages. How long you might stay in each of them is going to depend on if the change was your idea or if it was someone else's, or if it's something you're excited about or not excited about. But we still tend to move through all of them. And just understanding this transition model and kind of where you personally are in terms of your energy around a specific change, maybe one that's happening at work or even at home, I think it's really an important first step in just helping your organization or your team effectively make the changes that you believe are necessary or desirable, or the ones that you want to. If you are in stage 1 and trying to introduce change to others, it's probably not going to go over very well. I think your energy is going to come out by, through your fear and your anger and your denial and all of that stuff. If you're in stage 3, but everyone else is in stage 1, or they haven't been given the time or the tools to move forward, it's also not going to go very well. So just taking a minute and thinking about a change, you may have something specific that you are going through, maybe you're about to go through, or you want to introduce. Just think about a change that's about to happen in your business. Is this a change that's your idea? Is it something that you're really excited about? If yes, or if so, like you might be emotionally ready, or you might already be in stage 3 because you've already gone through stage 1 and 2 in your head kind of by yourself, right? You're ready to be in stage 3 and the new beginning. You're excited about the future. But where are your staff in terms of their emotional and energy kind of transition around it? I think low energy and frustration, it's often the result of being in different stages of the transition. And I think that goes for all sides. You are really excited for the change and you're frustrated that, you know, the staff and the team isn't on board. Well, it's because you're in stage 3 and they're in stage 1. And the staff, the team, they are still nervous about the change. They don't understand why you don't understand that their anxiety is real. And it's because they're in 1 and you're in 3. I think in comes a lot of frustration when we are in different stages and we don't recognize that all the stages are normal and to be expected. And all of us have likely experienced when change has happened to us, or it wasn't our idea, we were being asked to change. Just think about, where are you emotionally, or where were you emotionally or energetically? If we are stuck in stage 1, angry and fearful and in denial, having low negative vibrational energy about the change to everybody around us, it's probably not going to go very well. Or have you been able to move to step 2 and 3, or stages 2 or 3, excuse me? That's how we're going to see change really happen. And as leaders, I do believe we need to move ourselves forward before we can expect others to follow. And we need to give them the space, the time, and the tools to be able to move forward. And we'll share a couple tools just next. I think that this is a time just in society, in the world, what's happening right now. We are all going through an unprecedented amount of change. And I'm sure you've heard that in every single e-news that you've received in the past 11 months. But I think that we are all experiencing a lot of change. I think it is probably fair and safe to say that, you know, none of us wanted a global pandemic to happen, because that's the big change that, you know, I'm talking about here, but we are here. And I just want to give you a sense of how these stages apply to you. And thinking of where we are at currently, 11 months into a pandemic, Mara's going to put up another poll. I want you to take a moment and just assess, where are you in the stages? Stage 1, stage 2, 3, where might you be at? There are no right or wrong answers. And while you put into your answers, I just want to share my experience. I can vividly remember March of last year when my kids' school closed and Zingtrain offices were shut down. I was in stage 1. I was afraid, I was in denial, I was disoriented. I was angry and fearful of what the future would look like, of what my job was going to look like, what my kids' education would be. It was a really hard time. And I think it took time, but by the summer, I maybe moved to like stage 2 a little bit. I started to accept the new reality. I might have even tiptoed into stage 3 a little bit, but then around October, November, I think I kind of backtracked and I went back to being fearful and in denial of, going back into quarantine and restrictions and all of that. And I would kind of go back and forth. And I can and only will, and we can end the poll. Thank you, Mara, so you can all see what folks said. I can only speak for myself. I think I'm beginning to move into stage 3, and just when thinking of things opening back up and people getting vaccinated and all of that kind of stuff. And again, that's just my personal, I'm going to be moving into stage 3 more and more. So I appreciate you all for taking the time to fill that out. Hopefully it was helpful just to assess. I like that there's a mix of answers. I think that I can move through all 3 stages in one day sometimes, in relation to the pandemic or just in relation to any change. It just depends on what else is happening around me. If you take any change, it could be, certainly a pandemic. It could be a schedule change, when you're changing jobs, when your parents are, changing something or changing what you thought you were going to have for dinner, whatever it is. All of these changes, we go through them. We go through the stages, I think. And again, I think the key with energy and change in business is not to stay in stage 1 too long. If we stay there too long, we're really not helping change move forward. So how we can help with that is a little bit of change theory. So this is a model that helps describe the theory of change management, and it can be used as a tool to help people move through the stages and ultimately, increase their energy around the change. And it describes the conditions of what need to be in place in order for effective change to happen. Without these 4 pieces, the D, V, F, or R, we will rarely, I think if ever, get truly effective change. So the D stands for dissatisfaction. For change to happen, there needs to be dissatisfaction with the way things currently are. This could also be a desire for something different or for an improvement, a desire for us to, all stay healthy, a desire for the business to continue to succeed, right? It's not necessarily a negative, it just is. It typically begins with somebody or a group of people deciding like they're dissatisfied. We want something to be different. We want to be, or we're more hopeful for the future. Like that is can be the dissatisfaction. So it begins with someone dissatisfied or having a desire, changing the status quo. Next, we move to vision. So this is, what does it look like when the change has been made successfully? In our experience, people are almost more willing to go along with the change when they can picture what it's going to look like after the change has been made. It can also help ease people's minds because they know that the change leaders are thinking about the bigger picture and the impact of the change, taking into consideration the stages, the transition model, taking into consideration the energy. The F stands for first steps. We need some idea of how we're going to get started implementing a change. If we have a strong sense of wanting it, but there's not a clear action step or no clear first steps, no change is really going to occur without some type of action. So we want to have those first steps. Maybe it's not all figured out, but we want some of them. I think being able to raise the shared dissatisfaction, sharing a clear, inspiring, compelling vision, having some first steps, those are tools to help people move out of stage one and the fear and the denial and begin to move to stage two. As we can move out of stage one, what we're actually working to do is to outweigh the resistance. Whether we like it or not, without fail, resistance is going to crop up to almost every proposed change we have. Even those that I would think would be so obvious that no one would ever dream of opposing them, there is still going to be resistance. And like dissatisfaction, where we want dissatisfaction to start the change, resistance is not a bad thing. This formula, it doesn't say don't have any resistance, but it actually says that resistance needs to be in place in order to have an effective change. We have a former colleague who, when they first heard this, the idea of resistance, they did not agree. They didn't want people to resist. They used to say, when somebody says, well, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. That is a form of resistance. They're telling you like, you haven't thought about this. And she would often say like, instead of playing devil's advocate, why can't you play I'm on board? And like, just get on board with it. And while that sounds appealing, she learned through this process to embrace resistance. Without it, we often have apathy or compliance, where again, might sound nice for a moment, but people will go along with the change for a little bit, and then they often go right back to their old ways. They go back to their old habits as soon as they can. If we can do the work to outweigh the resistance, that's how we're going to get a change that actually sticks and have positive energy about that change. And so I kind of think of the resistance, again, as being Bridges stage one, the ending, the losing, the letting go. People resist because they don't want to lose what they currently have or what they currently do. But by helping raise the shared dissatisfaction of the way things currently are, we can share compelling reasons for why we're making this change, an inspiring vision, tell the first steps. We are helping them move to stage two. We're helping raise their energy. And then by giving them more time, answering their questions whenever they have them, even if it seems like we're answering them for the 17th time about why we're doing this change, sharing even more reasons why an even more inspiring vision, we're going to help move them to stage three and raise their energy even more. A couple more tools. This is another one we love, and this helps people move through the stages and raise energy. It's called bottom line change. So this is our 5-step recipe for introducing and implementing change in our organization. We use these steps to outweigh the resistance. And then when we can outweigh the resistance, we're increasing the organization's energy around the change and people will be more on board with it. And we're not going to teach the 5 steps today. We have a ton of resources on our website. We have a 2.5-hour workshop all around bottom line change and change, where you get to actually practice going through these steps. More on that in just a moment. But what I just want to point out here is that the very last step is to implement the change. And you might be thinking like, that's usually the first one that many people do. And we would say, yeah, it often is the first one. But for us, it's the last one. I think we want to, or not, I think we do. We want to spend the time planning the change, introducing the change, letting people go through all of the energy, the emotions, get them to stage 3 of the new beginning. So when we finally implement it, we're on board. People's energy and emotions are high, and the change is going to be a lot more successful. These are two tools or two images that are some of my favorites. At least for me, it puts so much into perspective around energy and change. I want you to imagine or think back to when you were the change leader, meaning it was your idea, you were the one who was going to be rolling out the change, and you know that this is going to be a good idea. You didn't always start there though. You are the pencil in this case. So I'll just say that you are the pencil. Let's say you have this idea for the change. You think, oh, this is going to be a great idea. And then you're like, no, it'll never work. Yes, I think we can do it. No, everyone's going to hate it. And so on. You're going up and down. Your personal energy about the change is constantly fluctuating. You're going back and forth between stages 1 and 2, sometimes pretty rapidly. But then you've done the work to get to stage 3. You have reached the new beginning. You've accepted that this change is going to happen. Your energy is high about the decision because you've made the change and you're ready to go, smooth sailing for you. But everyone else, they have been floating along, kind of the dotted line along the bottom. They have no idea that you're even thinking about this change. And then all of a sudden the change occurs and now they're going through all of the angst and their energy is going up and down. And you're sitting there kind of smooth and calm and thinking, what's going on here? What's the big deal? Can't you see that this is just a great idea? Get on board, everyone. It's because you're in stage 3 and they're in stage 1. And that's the frustration. The next example, the next image, this is kind of an illustration of the bottom line change process. So when we are sharing compelling reasons and a vision and working to raise the dissatisfaction and get through all the resistance, all of that, we're actually going through the turmoil and the energetic ups and downs together. And then once the time for implementation happens, because remember, step 5 is when we actually implement change, we can all be on the same page. We can have a positive energy going forward. We can work through the energy ups and downs and the dips together rather than spending a bunch of time fighting each other because I'm in one stage and you're in another. This is how we get change that actually sticks. We could talk a long, long time about change, obviously, and change is such an important topic. We're actually hosting a full day around it on March 18th. If you want to learn more about our bottom line change process and lots of other tools around change, we have a special one-day event happening called Compassionate Change. You will hear our bottom line change, but you're also going to hear how to increase compassionate work, how to be more inclusive when introducing change. We're very excited about the day. You'll see some information coming into the chat now. We'll send out an e-news if you certainly haven't gotten one. There's early bird pricing for $100 off, I believe, until March 5th. And then we have a special discount code that Mara put in as well to get 20% off even that pricing. And we hope to see a lot of you there. And before we kind of wrap up and then give some time for Q&A, because I saw some coming in, just a couple of additional resources. The first is to please check out zingtrain.com for a ton of free resources like past webinars like this one, articles, blog posts. We have books and pamphlets for sale on things like energy and on change. You can certainly reach out to us. We'd love to stay in touch. You can email us at zingtrain@zingermans.com, or you can reach out to me personally at jhales@zingermans.com. I love to talk about change and energy and how they can go together. So would be absolutely delighted to have a conversation with you all. And I very sincerely mean that. Please email at any point. All right, I think time for some questions. We covered a lot of information. I will stop sharing so I can see Emily.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you everyone for the questions. We have quite a few.
Great.
So we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Thank you, everyone. We've had a few folks saying in the chat that they've signed up for Compassionate Change. So
awesome.
Really excited to see you there. Mohammed also made a good point here about believing a point that's overlooked about change is that they're sometimes highlighting the risk or the benefit of not changing. So changing.
That's a really great point.
Yeah. So thank you, Mohammed, for offering that up in the chat.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think that talks to, I mean, the risk of not is a way to raise the dissatisfaction. Like if we stay the way things are, we might not have a business, we might become obsolete. So the risk of not changing is that we, might not be able to do the things that we actually love to do. So that's a really good point. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so here we're going to start with some questions here.
Okay.
Sam wants to know, have you found that there's a have you found there's a best time horizon for the vision section of the change recipe? Too short, too long, or is it totally schedule dependent?
A best time horizon in terms of like the length of time the vision is, like how far out it goes?
I think that would, you can let us know, Sam. That's my understanding. But Sam, you can let us know in chat.
I think that's, yeah, how far from now? I think it depends on the change. If I am making a change to, just something like simple, how I want to move my furniture around in my living room. I could write a vision for a week from now of how, and I actually have done that once to help get my husband on board with how I want to change my furniture around, like a week from now, because we're going to be settled with it. If it's a really big change of introducing a new process that's going to impact the entire organization, maybe it's 6 months. When we did a change for the deli build out, if you're familiar with the delicatessen downtown, it was kind of 2 buildings, and then maybe it was 3 or 4 years ago, or possibly even longer. There's a whole nother building and a whole build out. I think the vision might have been 3 or 4 years in the future, because it was going to take that long to actually go through construction and building and get used to it. We wanted to go far enough out that we could really paint the picture and be inspiring. So there's no exact answer. I think it definitely just depends on the scale of the change.
Yeah. Okay, Leah had a clarification. I think they were talking about when you're visioning a change in your energy.
Oh, when you're visioning a change in your energy. So as part of that recipe.
Yeah.
I typically go just a couple. Thank you for clarifying, and sorry for another answer. I think I usually just go a couple hours out into the future. If I'm trying to vision where my energy will be in a week from now, that's kind of hard to think about. Although I might think, oh, I have this big event in a week and I want to have positive energy. I want to vision when I log on to that call or that workshop or that webinar that it's going to be a 9. But typically I just go a couple hours out, because then I repeat it. Where do I want to be at 1 o'clock? Okay, then I get to that point. Okay, where do I want to be at 3 o'clock when I'm starting this meeting? So you can go smaller chunks, but just keep it going so it can be a longer length of time.
I like that too, because it's a shorter time frame. Yeah, it just seems more achievable.
I get a little overwhelmed thinking of, hey, at 5 o'clock when, I kind of walk out of my home office and go with my kids, where's my energy going to be? Like, that's a long time from now. And I can just get overwhelmed. So let me just focus on the next hour. Yeah. What can we do in the next hour to get there? And then the next hour and the next hour. Bite-sized chunks just works a little bit better for me.
That's been really helpful for me just across the board. I feel like during this time too, taking it in smaller chunks. It's just helpful. Okay, great. So T. Martin asked, where does toxic positivity fall amidst the discussion?
Toxic positivity. If they're still on, I'd love to know a little more what you are talking about. Like somebody who is overly positive, or is it like the fake positive?
That could be.
So the fake positive.
Yeah.
Somebody who is fake positive, I would say they actually have low energy. They're at a 2 or a 3. Sometimes they're not even aware that their energy is so low. Mm-hmm. So doing the exercise of the good buzz, bad buzz, and where can we be, and how are you contributing to that, is just one way to make them aware of it. If they have the forced positive and it's clear that they have a smile on their face, but their energy is still a 3 or a 4, it's time to give feedback. And it's a performance issue. And when we want to talk to them about it, we focus not on their attitudes, because it's really hard to coach to someone's attitude. We want to focus on their behavior. So it's focusing on, like, when you smile, it's not meeting your eyes, or like your tone of voice along with the smile isn't very positive. So this is the feedback that I have to kind of improve that way. So I think it's just giving lots of feedback, reinforcement when they are doing well. So someone just said compassion. Someone who is enforced positive might be in real pain. Absolutely. There's a phrase that we use that kind of relates to this, and I think it can relate to this. It's from Paul, one of our co-founders, and it's the phrase, when furious, get curious. And I'm not saying you're furious at this person who was forced positive or forcing positivity, but it's just saying when you find yourself like annoyed or irritated, or even just questioning, like, why are they acting that way? Get curious, ask questions. tell me what's going on in your life, because maybe they are in real pain, physical, mental, emotional pain. You don't know. Trying to get as much information as you can without feeling like they have to reveal anything to you, because they certainly don't. But asking questions like, tell me what's going on, or tell me how things went last night, or tell me what your workload is all about, because maybe you can learn things that, oh, I can see why they're in this forced positive state, and I can help them. So I think trying to get to more of the root of it can be helpful.
Yeah.
And acting your way into the right thinking. That works for a lot of people. Fake it till you make it. I think it is a real thing. Doesn't work for everybody, but I think it is something that works for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. The chat is buzzing. I love it.
Good.
I love it. We've had a couple of questions about helping people through the stages.
Yeah.
A leader. So there was one question about what steps can we initiate to help and allow a person to move through these phases quickly. So that's kind of the first part of it that I'll pose to you, and then I'll.
Yeah. How to help people move from stage one?
Yeah, I guess quickly. So that was in both questions. So
yeah,
sort of getting people to move forward faster as a leader. How can you sort of encourage that?
I think it's using some of those tools of, helping raise the shared dissatisfaction, of sharing compelling reasons of why this change is a good idea, painting the picture of how it is going to be better for them in the future, getting them to see like how we're currently doing things. The risk is too great if we keep doing it this way. Let's do it this way. Having an inspiring vision, having some clear first steps, involving them in the change, getting them to be part of the change process rather than them feeling like change is just happening to them. Let them be a part of those. I think that can be really helpful. I think that it's hard to rush going through the stages as much as we want to go quickly. We really can't force anyone to no longer be fearful or no longer be in denial or just afraid of what the future is going to look like. I think we need to honor it. I think by doing, again, compelling reasons and a vision and following like our bottom line change process, we help move them more quickly. But it might just be spending time with them in that stage, answering their questions, respecting and understanding that, yeah, they're fearful. We don't know. They don't know how this is going to impact them. And I don't necessarily know how it's going to impact them, but let's stay in this moment and let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
That helps.
Yeah, hopefully that helps. You can let us know in the chat if we we're missing anything there. So another question is, how do you know what stage someone is in currently? Is it having that sort of describing the stages and then sort of asking them where they're at, or just taking a guess?
Sometimes you can tell if they are like just not being a part of any of the conversation and looking down and all like the bad buzz stuff we talked about at the beginning. If they're just acting that way, you're like, I'm pretty sure you're in stage one right now. But you can also teach them these stages, and it builds common language to it. I think it makes it acceptable and okay, and just again expected. We're going to be here. And I think, again, I can only speak for myself. Learning the stages, having change introduced to me, I recognize I'm in stage one. And I really care about the place I work. I care about the people I work with. I care about their ideas. If I stay in stage one and I know I'm there, I'm going to be a hindrance to whatever it is we're doing moving forward. So I choose to do the work to move to stage two. So I can become aware of it myself. So I think teaching this to others is a great way for them to realize like, oh yeah, my emotions, my energy right now, it is valid, but I also need to do the work to move to stage two.
Yeah. I think someone also made a good point in the chat at some point about there can be positive outcomes too in stage one, sort of the immediate sort of excitement.
Yeah.
Of stage two. I know we didn't cover that part quite as much, but that can be a reaction sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you recommend trying to navigate the new beginning stage when there's a conflict with new leadership?
So maybe the leader is at stage one still, or in denial, or they just don't even know about what's going on. If I have your question right, and if not, love to have you email me and we can continue to talk about it. I think that sometimes you might just be staying in stage three longer than you want to, like you're in the new beginning and they are just not. So the change takes a pause to get leadership on board. I think it's going back and sharing the compelling reasons for the change and the vision, getting to include some of their vision into the overall vision of the change is a way to help get them on board as well, especially if it's a new leader who, maybe wants to make their mark, or, they want to have a say in how things go. Just including them, I think, is part of it. And again, letting them, being aware that they need to move through the same stages. And maybe they won't be in the fear, denial, or letting go because they don't know how things currently work. Maybe they start squarely in stage 2. That is just a lot of kind of skepticism around it. And like, how is this going to work? Letting them spend their time there if they need to, and just doing the work to help move them to stage 3.
Absolutely. Yeah, great. Thank you. And thank you everyone for the questions. I think we have 1 or 2 that are unanswered, but I want to respect everyone's time here as we are at the top of the hour. So thank you everyone so much for joining us today for the really exciting and fun dialogue in the chat, for asking some really wonderful questions. Again, if your question was one of the few that we didn't answer, either Joni or I will reply to you here pretty soon with a response. Joni, thank you for sharing your wisdom on change, and energy, and Mara for rocking out the chat. We would love to hear what you thought of today's conversation and what you would like to hear about more in the future. So Mara, if you don't mind dropping a link, there it is. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let us know what you thought today. We're going to be sending out the recording and the slides here in the days to come, as well as a reminder of that special discount for you folks here on the webinar. So be sure to look out for that in the days to come. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Hope to hear from you soon.